All right, so hopefully you have a really nice little validation that's happening here. Um, as you really start to become a good programmer, you should start to identify patterns, things that are repeatable, things that you would do it over and over again. So let's say I had another field. I only have one string I'm getting in here, but let's say I had another one that I was going to get an input from. Essentially, what I would do is I would copy and paste all of this. So I don't know, let's just say something that's a string. Um, Home address. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to actually keep this in a second. But I'd change the variable name. I'd change the prompt. And I could change this right here if I wanted to. And I don't even have to be that specific on that error message. We could change that. But everything else, all the code remains the same. All that changed was really the variable name and the prompts that's going on inside of there. So if I notice that I'm changing simple things over and over again, that's not the structure of the code. If the loop and the if statement and the flow of everything stays the same, it makes this thing very subject to add it as a helper. So again, we created a helper here without really thinking much about it. But we can add these at any point in the code to basically simplify the code we have to write. Now, there's nothing wrong with copying and pasting this, but I'm going to show you how much easier it is if I create this helper, because I only have to do this one time. I have to test it one time, and then everything else just kind of works from there. So the helper I'm creating here, I'm going to call it the get required input. And I'm going to pass in a prompt. If you wanted to, you could pass in an error message, but I'm going to keep just a standard error message for now. All right. So that's my program, my item. I'm going to copy and paste this over here. And so while true still works. So this is going to be let's just call it answer. And so I'm going to prompt the user based off of the input. So I'm going to send in the prompt. And I'm going to strip it off the same way. And if the length of the answer is equal to 0, then I'm going to give an error. You must provide, instead of saying a name, we'll say an input of at least one character. Okay, I could add a different, if I want the character to be at least 10, I could add some logic here and pass in a minimum or something like that. Don't worry about that for now. We can always make this more robust, but let's take exactly what we had before and turn it into a generic helper up there, a function to help us right there. All right, so all I've done was move that along and move that up, copy and paste it. And again, all I did was I changed the variable to make it generic. I changed the prompt to something you're going to pass to me. And then I just made this a generic answer. And then maybe I actually changed this as well to match my variable name. I can't forget that. But now, because I've done that, I can instead say name is equal to get required input for the prompt I'm creating here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, if you don't remember that. And then I don't need any of this. All right, so get required input. What is your name? I need to test it. F5. Oh, wait. Get required input is not. Oh, require input. I didn't type it right. Required. Okay, that's my bad. Fat fingered it or spelled it wrong, however you want to look at it. But there you go. What is your name? You must provide an input of each one character. Space, space, space. You must provide an input of each one character. Okay, that's a little bit of a confusing message, but you get the idea. So T. What did I do? None type object is not. Oh, yes. I know what I forgot here. What I didn't do, I don't need a break here anymore. What I forgot to do, and totally forgot to do, is when I create this, what am I doing with the answer? And this is a Python-ish thing. In most languages, not most languages, many languages, I'd be required to tell you what I'm returning. In Python, it does not. So I need to make sure I return a value like we did up above, return 703 times whatever. I need to return, if it's okay, the answer. And I didn't do that, and so name never got assigned anything, so name was a none value when we got to the end. So when I say none type object is non-subscriptable, well, that's when I got to this guy right here. That's where the problem is. And that's because I have experience. I can read the error messages. You might not have the same experience. But again, let's look at this. Type error, none type is not subscriptable. It doesn't really give me enough detail here. So Python doesn't give you great error messages here, but it's talking about this thing with the subscript, a subscript being the bracket 0 bracket. That's what that error message essentially means. Now, how you'd figure that out on your own from new coding, it's tough. I just tell you, it's tough. That's why I like demos like this, because we run into errors sometime accidentally. I forgot it, and we can see what it looks like and how to fix it. And you might do that. You might forget just to write this thing because you're not always be transcribing. So that's a useful thing. So let's try it again. All right. So nothing. I put in a name, garbage. Put in a name, garbage. Put in a name, garbage. Hey, look, F. It did it. It worked perfectly. I now have a helper. So now, if I want other things, I could change this to be, what is your first name? Right here. And I can change this to be first name. What is your last name? Here, I'm actually going to copy the whole thing. Change first to last name. And this is my style issue. I like to line up my equal signs. Makes everything look nice that way. What is your last name? And then down here, I changed it, so I can't forget to come and change my variable here. I can say, what is your first name? And I can say first of 0, and I can do a plus here because I don't want to put the space. If I put a comma between them, it's going to put a space. First, sorry, name. I have to be exact in there. And last name of 0. And so I can put your initials right there, first and last name. So I'm going to F5 this. What is your first name? Tony. What is your last name? Low. Height, 72, 195. And TL, your BMI is boom. And I know, without testing it, that this will do the required input because I've already tested that. All right, so there is a nice little wrinkle. It is not required you do that. You could have easily copied and pasted this 2 times and had that in their first name, last name, and your code becomes slightly less readable that way. The great part about learning about functions and building them is look how wonderfully readable this is. Get required input for your first name, get required input for your last name. I can customize that further if I need to, but this makes my code super easy to read. I'm going to do something similar for these two, but we need to learn another new wrinkle to Python in order to handle that. So we're going to come back to that in another video. I want you to go through and build this, and we'll go from there. But practice this another new looping technique of using while loops and then inside of a function as well as kind of the advanced bonus option that, again, even if you're not looking to be a great programmer, this is a good programming practice to pick up for everybody.